and high expectations for what you would learn and accomplish, but not much idea for how it would all unfold. You came with talent and curiosity and determination and creativity and a certain amount of anger at the state of the world and the planet. Mostly, you came with a desire to have the days of your work amount to something and matter for something. We all, the faculty and I, have the same experience. We see you on the first day, and we try to get a sense of you, and we try to imagine what you'll do. But we have no idea how you'll take what you learn and use the connections and create a path for yourself. In the best cases, we are completely surprised and delighted by what you do. This is the moment when you come up on the stage and give a 10-minute presentation that represents the application of what you've learned. And as impressive as the projects are, what matters more is that each of you have mastered a process and a practice that you can apply to bigger and bigger challenges throughout your lives. These 10 minutes represent the relationships you've made with each other and with faculty, and the friendships and collaborations and the frustrations and the setbacks and the breakthroughs and the hours of preparation and perseverance. You were not an easy cohort. You weren't easy on each other. You weren't easy on us. And I think in the end, you weren't very easy on yourselves. But you did transform yourselves, and you made it. Michael Raineri, you transformed yourself from critic to critical thinker, and finally found the way that you could make a difference in the only issue that matters ultimately, the planet. Marlon and Andrea and Karina, I'm grateful to you for your audacious ambition to take on climate change and your perseverance in finding a place and a way to make it work. Karina, you deserve a special award for the bravest person of all. Siqi, your determination to help Chinese elders here to babysit their grandchildren was remarkable, as you tried one prototype after another to engage them, and then you nailed it. Haoshi, you made it to the finish line in the nick of time. You worked so hard to take on the really difficult challenge of helping people with disabilities in your hometown of Changsha. Congratulations. Irene, Carmen, you turned a desire to help immigrants assimilate into a joyful bonding experience, and you did it brilliantly. Kendall, you taught us that the heavy metal community is filled with tree huggers. And you turned that insight into an audacious initiative. Linjie, you never ceased to surprise me from the moment you showed up unexpectedly at the lecture I gave in Beijing. And what a journey you've had and what you've overcome. Karla, you managed a giant pivot brilliantly and made up for time diving deep into the community to understand how to help it. Genieve, you didn't pivot, but stuck tenaciously to your idea while things were pivoting all around you. Brava. Jiajing, your thesis came to life when you made it personal and looked to your own grandmother for inspiration. Wen, your sweetness and caring for others was always at the heart of your quest, and you worked so hard to channel it into a wonderful thesis project. Jade, from your first tweet of happiness when you got accepted to DSI until I hope forever, you've been an inspiration and a joy to us. Tanvi, you used your extraordinarily talented hands and head to create an intervention that will help poor laborers not let what little money they have slip through their fingers. Mohammed, when you talked about yourself in boot camp years ago, you told us how much time you spend playing games. And then you used what you learned about designing games at the program to take on the economic stability of your whole country. Sara, your sweetness and patience were put to excellent use, finding a way to help expat children not lose their native language. And Pragya, oh Pragya, I will miss your questions and the doubt that makes you dig twice as deep and work 3 times as hard, and would like to tell you once and for all that you're amazing. Stop doubting. You're all amazing, and we're grateful to you and your dedication and the talent you've shown. You know more about how to lead change now than most people ever will. This is a moment when the world needs you more than ever. I hope you hang on to your anger at the injustice around us, and that you bring everything that you learned and brought to bear on the issues, and that you'll join the other extraordinary alums of DSI who are not settling and not accepting things because it's the way they've always been done. In our favorite quote, Bucky Fuller said, "If the success or failure of this planet and of human beings depended on how I am and what I do, how would I be? What would I do?" We've seen in each of you how you're answering that question. So this is the moment when I wish you well and Godspeed. And now I'm going to turn it over to first the celluloid and then the live and in-person Jeff.
Hello. I've inadvertently created a little tradition for myself at these shows. I call it Fun with Video. So to introduce myself, the program, and the students, and to keep the tradition alive, here's another. We hope you enjoy it. Hello. I know, this is a little weird. I'm right there, and I'm up here too. But it'll be more fun this way. Welcome to the Thesis Show. We're Jeff, the first of the 5 thesis advisors you'll meet today. To begin, thank you to all the faculty at Design for Social Innovation, and especially the rest of the Fab 5, Archie, Tina, Miya, and Megan. I'm so grateful to work alongside each of you. We made it another year in one piece. Also, a huge thank you to Cheryl for your continued trust and guidance. We're not worthy. For all of us here, and for many reasons, this last year has been pretty wild. A lot of things happened that we didn't think were possible. Today, as much as ever, the world needs dreamers and doers who are actively working to make a positive change around them. I know that sounds cliche, but it's what we truly believe. At DSI, we don't teach any one specific discipline. We teach a process, a way of seeing, thinking, studying, and taking action. We build a set of skills that gives our graduates the confidence to dive headfirst into the things they don't know, so they can intelligently face any problem they discover. Each year, this program is steadily training and releasing an army of dreamers and doers into the world. Thesis is an intense study and display of that process. For the 23 of you here, that 5-letter word has meant a lot of ups and downs as you explored what it takes to go from a simple question to a meaningful impact. Not so easy, right? The next 4 projects are great examples of that process coming to life. Michael, you transformed an overlooked organic waste problem into a valuable community resource. Marlene, Andrea, and Karina, you gave a flooded New York neighborhood an opportunity to take action and understand how a greater issue affects them personally. Siqi, you built lasting connections among Chinese seniors when they thought it wasn't possible. And Haoshi, oh Haoshi, you helped an invisible population to be seen and encouraged member of their society. Pretty damn great. In the face of many adversities over these past 2 years, you each fought hard. You should be very proud of what you accomplished for yourself and for those affected by your projects. I'm very proud to have been there to help along the way, and I look forward to seeing what you'll dream and do next. Okay, deep breaths now. You're literally only a few minutes away from graduating. Thank you. Okay, I hope that was able to take the edge off just a little bit for all of you. Thank you again for this opportunity, and now the projects.
Going the wrong way? We're good. We're good. Wonderful. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michael Raineri, and so I came to DSI originally, as Cheryl has mentioned, looking for a way to contribute to the environment. I spent much of my adult life living in cities, and I was searching for a way to make these cities less wasteful. Ways that these urban ecologies and rituals could be less extractive and less wasteful. But the more I looked around me and the more I searched, the more I realized that it was just too hard. It seemed that as alone, there was no way to go about doing this on my own, and that I just couldn't go anywhere. So I began my search with these academic journals and city data, and I was assuming that there was just no way that I could find it without looking for something that was just so obscure or so strange, and that would be where I needed to intervene. But what I realized was that what I was looking for was all around me. It's a ubiquitous industry that New York metaphorically and literally runs on. Apologize. Coffee. So we think a lot about coffee. We think a lot about how it's sourced. We think a lot about where it's come from, how it's made, how we drink it. New Yorkers have a ritual around coffee. We find ourselves scheduling our day around when we can get that first cup. So when we brew our beans, make our order, or drink our latte, we never really think about what happens next. So unfortunately, what does happen next is waste. New York City coffee shops, they landfill roughly 8,500 tons of spent coffee ground waste each year. To put this into perspective, that's about equal to the weight of 4,250 cars, and a majority of these grounds just end up in the landfill. So what can we do with all these used coffee grounds? Well, as luck would have it, as I was studying these different urban economies and looking for ways that I could actually on my own make a difference, I discovered one type of economy that was very different. And that type of economy is a circular economy. A circular economy in its simplest form uses a resource over and over for different purposes. This idea of reusing another's waste and turning it into a resource is also known as waste as a resource. Now, let me take a moment and introduce you to an expert on waste as a resource and circular economies. So this is a tulip tree, and it lives in the front yard of my childhood home. And it takes an entire year to produce these amazing blossoms. They tend to bloom for just 1 week, and then they pretty quickly fall to the ground. And when these petals and seed pods fall, it's because they no longer serve the tree any real purpose. But yet they aren't, like in other industries, collected up by a garbage truck and dumped in a landfill. Instead, they're transformed into food for animals and nutrients for the soil, which strengthens the tree and everything that lives around it. Now, I started to look at how coffee grounds could fit within this model of a circular economy, and I realized that they're a wonderful thing. They're sort of like this superfood of garbage, and they're a perfect example of this idea of waste as a resource. Among other things, coffee grounds are ideal as compost and plant food. They have a high calorie count that makes it more effective than biofuel. They can be used in pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, and they also work as fillers and colorants in building materials. But despite all these fantastic uses, they still just end up in the landfill. So I tried to figure out what factors I would need to consider to solve this problem, and I came up with 3. The first one is, how much waste can we divert from the landfill? The second was, can we create a space for conversation around waste as a resource? And the third was, can we use coffee grounds to actually make a resource? So I prototyped some early concepts, and one of them was this idea of a coffee ground, a sandbox for children made from coffee. And I also tried Cafe to Farm, a service that delivered used coffee grounds from the land or from cafes to farmers so they could use it in compost. And I quickly learned that although it's easy to actually divert those grounds, it's much harder to create a conversation around it, and it's much harder to get New Yorkers to care about where their coffee grounds are going. So I realized that what I needed to do was bring my solution to the cafe. It's a place where people already have this ritual around coffee and this conversation, and if I could take advantage of that, I could do wonderful things. So I looked for a solution that could fit within the confines of the cafe, that could appeal to the customers of the cafe, and yet could also stand out to New Yorkers who tend to be very busy. So I came up with this idea to develop cafe-branded fertilizer, which uses coffee grounds from coffee shops and essentially makes a plant food, if you will, that can be used in gardens or wherever. And so as I was doing my research, I realized that this is actually not too hard to do. It requires a majority of spent coffee grounds, which cafes have a lot of, and then 2 extra ingredients, which are very easy to do, and they just sort of round out the nutritional value of the fertilizer. So this fertilizer diverts a lot of waste, which is fantastic, and it also sparks conversation through its sale and its unique packaging. So to bring this idea of coffee fertilizer to life, I created the Community Grounds Project. The Community Grounds Project enables coffee shops to become part of a circular economy by diverting their spent coffee grounds from the landfill and giving them new life as a resource for their patrons and their local community. To accomplish all of this, it can be done through the creation and sale of coffee ground fertilizer. So I prototyped this idea with the cooperation of a Brooklyn coffee shop by the name of 7 Point Espresso and the local Brooklyn Boy Scouts of Troop 22. 7 Point Espresso was very excited about being able to reduce their waste while also putting it to good use, and they were particularly interested in being able to connect other organizations and build goodwill within their community. And the Scouts, they have a long history of environmental stewardship, and they meet only a few blocks from the coffee shop. They were also eager to participate, especially with the idea of receiving a financial benefit. We both talked and realized that it would be a good idea to use a portion of these funds to hold workshops for the Scouts on recycling and waste management. So the Community Grounds Project pairs 7 Point Espresso with the Boy Scouts. It allows the cafe to provide the coffee grounds that the Boy Scouts need. The Community Grounds Project then gives the Boy Scouts extra ingredients and bags necessary for them to mix the fertilizer and package it. Once everything's packaged, the Scouts can give the fertilizer back to the cafe, where they can sell the fertilizer. The proceeds from those sales then go right back to the Boy Scouts, who in turn use those proceeds to further educate their Scouts on waste as a resource. And then the sold fertilizer can go back to the community and can fertilize and nourish all the gardens and fresh food in the community. So with the fertilizer finally mixed and packaged, we set up a display with signs explaining the project and its impact, and we asked patrons to make a suggested donation. By the end of the first week of this pilot, the staff at 7 Point Espresso were really amazed that half of the 20 bags we had produced were already being purchased. Customers' reactions were overwhelmingly positive, and it definitely was sparking a conversation about waste as a resource. The donations left behind averaged over $7 per unit. With each fertilizer unit, this gives an astonishing profit margin of around 60%, with all of it going to Troop 22. So these funds can now help the Scouts to learn more about waste as a resource. Most importantly, though, the Community Grounds Project diverted waste away from the landfill and back to a productive resource. With 10 units sold and a week-long intervention, it diverted around 16 pounds of 7 Point Espresso's grounds, which is about 2 days worth of their waste, or roughly 30% of their weekly coffee waste. So with so many different opportunities, there was a lot of chance to really create value. Not only that, but a lot of other shops in the neighborhood expressed an interest in taking this idea and running with it to support their own benefit organizations that they really felt passionate about. And additionally, the problem of spent coffee ground waste isn't even one that's unique to New York. Coffee and cafe culture is growing, and the Community Grounds Project can be there to grow with it, to take all that increasing waste and turn it into an increasing resource. If the Community Grounds Project scales up to just a fraction, even just 5% of the cafes in New York, we could grow our awareness about waste as a resource. We could raise over $300,000 for community organizations, and we could divert 70,000 pounds of coffee grounds all in just a single year. So with this massive potential in mind, I now know what a city dweller like me can do to contribute to the environment and their community. So I ask you, the next time you're out walking around the street with all those other New York City residents, take a look at your daily rituals and see where you can turn waste into a resource and start your own conversation. Thank you.
Hi, I am Andrea.
I'm Marlene.
And I'm Karina. And hello to everybody watching at home.
This is Sandy. Sandy was a powerful superstorm that passed over New York City 5 years ago. It submerged a lot of the city in floodwaters, left thousands of families without homes, and cut off people from essential resources in the days following. Many New Yorkers were not prepared for this storm, and today, people are still recovering emotionally and physically. New York City is a coastal city. Because it's entirely surrounded by water, it's vulnerable to the same issues that coastal cities all over the world are facing. Sandy was a turning point in New York City's understanding of how sea level rise could affect it. If you haven't heard of sea level rise, let me explain. As global temperatures rise, ice sheets melt and water expands, causing sea level rise. And this makes our high tides even higher. The higher the tides, the more chances water will come inland. It happened during Sandy, but it could happen on a regular day too. On regular days, when high tides occur, tidal waters can enter through our sewer system and flood our streets. This is called tidal flooding or sunny day flooding, because this kind of flooding could happen when there is no rain on a sunny day. And this will only continue to get worse. Rockaway, Queens, just 20 miles away from here, was one of the communities that was most damaged during Sandy, and now it's one of the frontline communities for sea level rise in New York City. In 1983, only 24% of Rockaway Park and Rockaway Beach buildings were at risk of damage during a major flooding event. Today, that number is 89%. Sea levels and high tides will continue to rise and get worse. So we asked ourselves, what can Rockaway do to adapt?
When we went to Rockaway, we met Jamal, who's a student living there. He told us although people experience Sandy, they don't talk about sea level rise. They talk about things that affect them every day. This was also true for him. He spoke to us mostly about the accumulation of trash he notices on his way to school. He thinks that the trash could be blocking the sewers, making it hard for water to go down through the sewer system when there is flooding. And he is right. In fact, 23% of sewers backups in Queens are related to trash and debris. The standing water causes him to run into swarm of mosquitoes, experience bad smells, and he's often late to school due to severe flooding along his route. When we ask Jamal and others in the community how they handle this, most of them say, "We just deal with it." And they didn't seem to relate sea level rise to challenges they experience every day. This made us think, what if we could create a personal connection to sea level rise and sunny day flooding by focusing on problems people experience every day, making it more personal and urgent? This could also help people like Jamal identify specific actions to adapt. Currently, the city has tools like 311 to report certain issues, but according to a community leader, not enough people are using it, and it doesn't reinforce the connection to sea level rise and everyday challenges, making sea level rise something far away from them. We used to believe if more people reported issues to the city's hotline, it will bring more attention to issues that make flooding worse. But we found that 311 requires you to wait on the phone, have a smartphone to use their app, or a computer to use their site. And it doesn't provide feedback and inform about the connection certain issues have to sea level rise. So in collaboration with Jamal and a group of his friends at the Rockaway Waterfront Alliance, we conducted a series of workshops where together we created an easy way to connect residents to local government to call their attention to their issues, while learning how sea level rise affects their community so they can take action. And this is called High Tide.
High Tide is a simple messaging system that allows residents like Jamal to report issues in his community that worsen flooding and are related to sea level rise. Jamal can save Tide in his contacts and easily reach her texting High Tide. Once Jamal texts High Tide, Tide will then respond asking what he'd like to report. He can press 1 for trash, 2 for flooding, 3 for clogged sewers or smells, or 4 for smells. In his case, it will be 1 for trash. Once Jamal sends his location, Tide will then complete the report by sending a tweet to 311. Tide will also reach out to Jamal to keep him in the loop about his report, and she will update him about other issues his neighbors are reporting. Users found texting Hataat easy, simple to use, and accessible. They were happy to hear that they don't have to wait on the phone anymore to report other issues. And what's best, there's no need to download or learn to use a new app. But how do we get Jamal and his neighbors to continue using Hataat? So initially, we thought that people wanted incentives like coupons or discounts. And we were very happy to learn, and very surprised to learn that for many residents, just seeing the impact, the positive impact of their actions was enough. So we created 2 other ways in which Hataat showed them their impact and helped them learn about sea level rise. They can view it through social media to stay up to date on what the community is reporting. And by visiting meettide.com, they can read stories about how it's affecting their neighbors, use maps to visualize and identify other issues in Rockaway related to sea level rise, and learn about sea level rise and what they can do to lessen its effects. The impact of Hataat will be reflected in the community the more it gets used. The more people report, the better the chances bigger actions will be taken to adapt. The number of users and the issues reported are all saved in the messaging system and will help indicate if positive impact has taken place. So when using Hataat to report issues, people don't have to wait on the phone. They can use the service in any cell phone, and they'll receive personal feedback and education on the greater problem they are facing. Community leaders who work in schools and with New York City Housing Authority residents have seen the value of Hataat, and they requested workshops so that others can learn about how sea level rise affects them personally. Mohammed gets frustrated knowing flooding will continue to happen, but now with Hataat, he understands why and what action he can take to lessen its effects.
As you may guess, we cannot stop flooding caused by sea level rise, but high tide can get residents to take one action that affects them personally and is related to sea level rise, understand how that action impacts the area where they live, and finally, identify other actions they can take to adapt to the larger issue, sea level rise. We understand that sometimes this issue seems too big to grasp, but sea level rise is personal. We ask you to identify just one issue that you can act upon now that will make its effects less powerful later. In Rockaway, it's making sure that trash stays out of the sewer system. In your community, what will it be? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Siqi. I'm a Chinese student in New York. If I choose to stay in New York after my graduation, in 5 or 6 years, I will probably get married and have a baby. Like most young Chinese adults, I will ask my parents to come to New York to help me take care of my baby. At this point, my family's happiness is at risk, because many examples tell me that this is time a problem starts. An old man I met in Chinatown told me his dilemma in New York. On one side, he couldn't find anyone to hang out with him. On another side, he doesn't really have much time to see his adult children because he thinks it is inappropriate to live with them after they get married. He is not an exception in Chinatown. He is a norm. Asian Americans are one of the fastest growing ethnic groups in the US. Many of these immigrants are older adults. Chinese Americans are the largest group and also the oldest. The US Census Bureau estimates that by 2050, the number of Asian Americans above 65 years old will be 3 times the higher than in 2000. a large number of the seniors came to the US to follow their children and help raise their grandchildren. So, when I look back on my future picture, the difficulty for my parents is not 15-hour flight. It is when they board the flight, they break their social ties in China. They are going to face a ton of problems in New York. They don't know the language, culture, or policies in New York. This feeling of confusion is the same thing you feel when you try to read these Chinese characters on the screen. They also begin to miss their old friends in China, who are 1,000 miles away. Their family members here are too busy to give them much concern. These seniors, they also need to take care of their grandkids who seldom speak Chinese. In this situation, there are actually two types of isolation happening. One is between the senior and their family, and another one is between the senior themselves. Many seniors in this situation are considering going back to China because they feel extremely isolated in this city. Recent reports show that most Asian seniors have a small circle of friends. Among those living alone or in senior housing, only 3 in 5 have family living close by. 55% express symptoms of loneliness or depression. Among all these numbers, Chinese seniors make up more than half of Asian seniors in New York. You may wonder, with so many Chinese neighborhoods and Chinese people in New York, how could social isolation happen to them? Here is what I learned by interviewing isolated seniors. In China, your neighbors all speak the same dialect, right? However, in New York, seniors from South China found that they cannot communicate with seniors from North China who live in their neighborhood. Different languages and backgrounds also give them different perspectives. They think people with different values are difficult to be friends. Seniors who just came to the US believe they do not have anything in common with immigrants who have been here a while. They believe that they do not share life experiences, education levels, or budget concerns. But the truth disproves their beliefs. Among over 20 interviews I did with isolated seniors, there are 4 common topics they repeatedly mentioned to me. These topics are their grandchildren, who they have deep love for. China, they showed a lot of interest in Chinese policy and its economy. They miss their homeland. They are also regularly reading Chinese newspaper every day. And they have a huge love for finding good shopping deals. So my hypothesis is that they can be connected by their common interests. Grandkids, Chinese news, their homeland, and good deals. My first prototype happened in an isolated senior's home. The old woman who I prototyped with was very quiet when we were alone. But as soon as her grandkids come back, she becomes very talkative and lovely. To me, this indicates that their love for kids can spark conversation. When it comes to Chinese news, during my interviews, the seniors not only show interest, they also had strong opinions about what they were reading. I often went to the park to meet with seniors. There, I found that almost all of them were holding a newspaper. So I wondered, what does this newspaper mean to them? As people who grew up in 1940s, newspaper was the first media experienced, and they have a deep trust for it. I believe that this media can be a comfortable and a trusted platform to send important messages to seniors. In the past year, I normally went to a senior building twice a week to better understand their lives. Apart from 3 meals, seniors would like to go out for coupons. This tells me that good deals are motivation for seniors to go out and get together. So what I learned from this insight is that I need to design a reliable tool to motivate seniors go out and make friends. This is a corner of Columbus Park. This is another corner of Columbus Park. In each corner of the park, you can always find a senior reading newspaper by themselves. So my solution is to use their most familiar media to help them connect with unfamiliar peers. I achieve this through Chinatown Connects, a community newspaper created by and for Chinese seniors to highlight their common interests and building lasting interaction opportunities among them. In this newspaper, there are 5 columns. The first column is titled, Tell Your Story. These are true stories of the daily life of seniors in Chinatown. This can help them find peers who have the same hobbies as them. The second column is My Excellent Grandkids. This is a section that shows their grandkids' funny story and talents and document their happy moments. And the Chinatown Kitchen. Here, seniors are free to share their secret recipes. Also, they can find about potluck events and secrets in the food market. Chinese New York Society. Here, seniors can get the latest news in Chinatown. Each section has a noteboard on site, along with contact information and activities. Seniors who are interested are able to reach out to them by phone calls or text. I started by sending my newspaper to a senior building in Chinatown and the Chinese community in Flushing. This lady, she got the newspaper from her mailbox. She read it and showed interest in an article that talked about fashion icons and handmade crafts. She texted the senior through the number on the newspaper. Philip, who is the manager in the senior building, is very happy about the connection and engagement happening through this newspaper. He showed interest in working with me. At the same time, I was also reaching out to New York City Department for Aging. We are now in the process of discussion an operation model for this newspaper. New York City Department for Aging can be responsible for producing the newspaper. Then it can be distributed to the managers of different Chinese senior centers. The managers of a senior center can introduce this newspaper to their seniors. After that, any connections or communications that happen based on the newspaper can be posted on the noteboard in the senior center. Each week, the manager can collect the stories and the data and report these connections to New York City Department for Aging as a data resource. With this system, each senior center becomes an enclosed cycle. Eventually, all the data can be sent to the New York City Department for Aging to help them make better decisions for their seniors programs. I believe Chinatown Connects can be a powerful bridge in New York City for reducing social isolation. It is already solved this issue step by step. Eventually, it will help elderly immigrants feel just as welcome as they feel in China. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. How's it doing? Perfecto. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Haoshi. I'm from China. Today, I was talking about a topic about the people from my country and my city. Riding a bus, walking on a subway, it's not real to see the disabled people in New York, but it's uncommon in China. In the good city of Changsha, one day, I saw no people with disability on the street, a Finland friend said. In my hometown, Changsha, there are about 308,000 disabled people. 1 of 5 families has a disabled family member. But where are they? Why are they invisible? It's not because there is not enough policy support. It's the attitude of the society that cut against the disabled. Mrs. Gao, Huining's founder, told me. To find the reasons, I visited Huining, a non-government organization for people with mental disability in Changsha. Current law requires companies to fill 1.5 to 2% of their job with the disabled. However, companies would pay certification fees rather than hire the disabled. There are about 62,000 mentally disabled. However, only 37 individuals currently have a job with insurance. This is 0.5% of all disabled people. What happened? I noticed the prejudice leads a cognitive behavior cycle. The cycle begins with the mentally disabled have limited participation in the community. This causes people to believe disabled people are inferior and incapable of daily work. The feeling of the inferiority in the mind of the public causes social isolation for the disabled. Social isolation in turn affects how public behaves, deny and unknow their learning abilities. In the end, they have no training opportunity to developing their working skills. How can I create a change? How can I create a change in this cycle? I noticed that how we react will then impact the current situation. Initially, both the feeling of the inferiority and the public treatment towards the disabled cause a bias. In the eye of the society, people with disabilities are unable to learn and acquire any new skills. With our reaction, we can change the society attitude, rethink our bias of their learning abilities. Our action can change the limited participation of the disabled in the society by introducing a new learning process for the public to acknowledge their learning abilities. I discovered mentally disabled youth are interesting and have a passion for painting, and this could build the learning process. That's why we began Works Art Center. Works Art Center is a public art exhibition was produced by mentally disabled young adults. During the process, they were trained, developed job skills, build connection with their community, and display their potential to local employers. The original name Work Center meant a sheltered workshop that provided job training opportunity for the disabled to prepare them to return to work. At Works Art Center, we selected 5 disabled young adults based upon their own interests. Painting just one of many things they did at the exhibition. Far more than I expect. It's very easy to teach them. They're very hardworking students. Xiao Le, a volunteer art teacher, said. Young adults spend a full session curating their art. Using their painting skills, they design handmade innovation posters, digitize them, documenting their learning process and art, then post on innovation online, hand it out to the friends and relatives. Community members are invited to come to the exhibition. They also arranged a exhibition signage in a physical space. Used WeChat, the most popular social network application in China, promoted their art. Marketing on the social media, without intending to, they create a retweet hit on the social networks and attracting a lot of friends. The learning process was documented by the artists and played in the background during the exhibition. Works Art Center used the exhibition special resume to create a dialogue with the visitor. It links the disabled youth with the public, make the invisible now visible. The impact was very positive. Disabled young adults were encouraged to speak with the audience. They sold their skills and artworks for the first time. They get paid by selling $308 arcs in a one single day. It's not too much for you guys, but it is 22 times more than local minimum monthly wage in Changsha. A local design firm funded by people with hearing loss recognized their ability and has offered a job training and employment opportunity for them. A bookstore owner is willing to excited to hold a monthly exhibition. I earned a lot. I want to participate more, Liu Rujia said. The mentally disabled like it, feel involved, and have more confidence. Visitors were surprised how good they are and acknowledged their ability and gave positive feedback. I never thought they painted so well. Very impressive, said Mr. Zhang, a visitor. It was another surprise. We never thought the relatives would so enjoy and so thankful for the event. We're so proud and happy. Look, that's my son's painting. The Works Art Center learning process can extend into different job areas and people. There are many vocational skills that the disabled can learn. This includes not only for the mental disabilities, but for all special needs kids. Mentally disabled people may have some incapacity, but they are neither in fear or should be feel shame. In many ways, they're just like you and me. They need a training opportunity to develop their skills. As a member of society, they have the equal right to participate in the community and make their own contribution as the non-disabled. An inclusive and diverse society benefits everyone in it. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Archie Lee Coates IV, as it says right there. This is my 4th season advising students in design for social innovation. Every year I have the privilege of seeing a handful of students go through a very strange and exploratory process and come out the other side capable of solving some of the world's most pressing problems. I want to say thank you to my faculty, Tina, Maya, Megan, and of course, Jeff, for the time and attention to advising such an incredible group of students, and in times me. And to Cheryl for making it all possible in the first place. We are extremely lucky to be here. Thank you for your trust. Thesis is hard. It's real hard. And it should be. Every year, a couple dozen people put themselves in a position where they have to figure something out. Something that makes somebody else's incredibly tough situation, make sense of it through empathizing and then understanding, designs for it, test those designs, and if they're successful, makes that person's situation better. It requires bravery to face the unknown, a sense of humor and lightness to be employed in times when it's needed most, patience with a long and complicated process, determination to work harder than you have ever had to work before, and a belief that what you've set out to do is in fact possible. Arguably, this degree is more valuable, necessary, and important today than it has ever been throughout history. For this degree, success isn't defined by perfection, but rather a willingness to get there, proof that you did, and an awareness of what you learned in the process. Today, I am proud to introduce 4 students who have done that and have demonstrated the traits mentioned across their incredibly disparate and needed projects. Linjie, Kendall, Carmen, and Irene, thank you for your trust and willingness to explore. I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to advise you, and I am looking forward to seeing what you do for others when you leave this theater. Linjie, you are a young man living in a country where freedom looks a little different than it does in this one. You saw that, asked what you could do to address it, and put yourself out there in an uncomfortable place, not only as a designer, but as a Chinese man. I am very proud of you and what you've accomplished. Kendall, you sought out to address an incredibly massive world problem of meat production's effect on the environment, and you did it in a small and impactful way by cleverly addressing it in one of the most unlikely of places, fast food. Even more impressive, you did it gracefully by embracing your own identity and culture. And then there's Carmen and Irene. Together, you set out to give the gift of opportunity to immigrants in New York City by helping them learn a tool a lot of other people take for granted in this country, me included, English. Through countless efforts, prototypes, exercises, and interventions, you learned something simple but transformative. That something as fun as a Beyoncé song can lead to empowerment and later to opportunity. In your quest for an answer, you went above and beyond in a way that has inspired me in my own work, and I hope will serve as an example for students for years to come. On that note, I'll let you hear from them. Carmen and Irene, take the mic.
Hi everyone, I am Carmen.
And I'm Irene, and to our families watching from back home, saludos a todos.
We're gonna talk about language today and how Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, and Stevie Wonder became the best English teachers. Did you know that in New York City there are more than 2 million immigrants who are not fluent in English? They come from all over the world in search for a better life, but without the language, their opportunities are drastically reduced. This is Corona, Queens, a neighborhood with one of the biggest concentrations of immigrants, where we interviewed people to learn about how they feel about learning English. Besides finding the best tortilleria in New York, through interviewing people, we found that many who don't speak English actually want to learn.
Lydia is one of them. She lives in Corona with her family, and she's taking English classes, but she still feels shy to speak. Her biggest problem is that she speaks her native language at home and in her community. Therefore, she doesn't practice often. But when someone speaks to her in English, she gets intimidated and overwhelmed because she's not able to respond.
So what does it take for Lydia to learn English? To understand the learning process, we visited the Queens Public Library at Corona and the Brooklyn Public Library, where free English classes are offered. There, we spoke to the English program coordinator, Hanif Toussaint, and told us,
the research says that it takes a minimum of 6 years, close to 1,500 hours per year, to become truly proficient.
Judy Shack, an English teacher in Corona, told us that the best way to learn a language is to practice. The more you practice, the more you learn. So it became clear to us that practicing was the most important part of learning a language.
So if learning takes practice, how often are students practicing English? We asked students at the library in Corona to tell us their weekly schedules to find out where they were practicing. And we learned that most students rarely practice outside of the classroom. So we wanted to create a way in which students could practice throughout the day. And we created a practice booklet with everyday activities such as sending a text message, reading an article, and having a conversation over the phone, but in English. We thought this would make students practice English more. But this didn't work. Students didn't feel motivated to do the tasks on their own.
Instead of asking the students to do activities, we realized that it was better to ask them what they already liked to do and what made them comfortable. So we found that they liked listening to the radio, singing, reading, and watching movies. And if we inserted learning into those activities that they already like, they would be more motivated to practice English. That is why we wanted to create a safe space where students could feel motivated, empowered connected to each other and the language, and enjoy practicing English. So we created Karaoke Club, an alternative space for people who are already taking classes to practice English through music.
Why karaoke? Music offers repetition for learning. Learning the lyrics of a song can help expand vocabulary. It exposes people to colloquial phrases. And getting to know the music of a country is getting to know the culture and language. We partnered with the Brooklyn Public Library to hold karaoke club sessions with students that are already taking English classes. Meet our first cohort. Some of them are sitting right here. They come from different parts of the world, and they came to the sessions because they were intrigued about this new way to practice English.
So what are the karaoke sessions all about? We listen to a song, read the lyrics, learn new vocabulary, practice the correct pronunciation, we quizzed the students, and sang. We also gave the students lyrics and links to songs so that they can practice at home or while riding the subway or in the shower, basically anytime they want.
Who knows this song? Frank Sinatra taught us what being a part of something is. We asked students what they want to be a part of, and we gave examples of how to use this phrase in a context that is relevant to their experience. Like, do you want to be a part of the citizenship course? The Beatles taught us that if the ice is slowly melting, it means that the weather is getting warmer. And Stevie Wonder taught us how to sincerely express one's feelings from the bottom of our hearts. The students presented in front of an audience at the Dweck Auditorium at the Brooklyn Public Library.
So how did Karaoke Club help the students? After the final presentation and the sessions, students felt empowered to try new activities in English. And they doubled the hours of practicing by listening to songs, reading lyrics, and singing. Eugenio felt empowered to try new things, like getting a library card to use a computer to look for new lyrics outside of the classroom. John Robert felt less shy about making mistakes. Jesus finally learned the song that he had been listening to all his life but didn't understand the meaning of until then. Jorge felt more open to speaking English and invited other people to try it.
The Brooklyn Public Library wants to adopt Karaoke Club, and we want more people to experience it as well. So we created a manual for educators and volunteers to hold their own karaoke club. The manual includes links to free resources, suggestions of songs that are appropriate and empowering. It explains how to facilitate a session and how to transform the space to create a more welcoming experience. If the Brooklyn Public Library has 2,000 English language students, how many more people could it reach if this program was extended to other libraries in New York City? Or to anyone who wants to try an alternative way to teach a language?
We know that learning a language takes time and effort, but with Karaoke Club as an example, students can feel less stressed about learning a language, develop a bond with the group, and have fun while learning and practicing a language. Ultimately, we want immigrants to be confident to speak English and be able to access opportunities so that they can contribute to this country with their full capacities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendall. And this was me 10 years ago. I was in love with the video games, drawing, and metal music. Also 10 years ago, I attended a music festival that changed my life. My best friend and I made a promise to go vegetarian together after seeing one fact about the meat industry presented by a nonprofit at Warped Tour. In my undergrad, I found out my diet was more than a personal choice. It had an impact on the planet. Every year, the average American eats around 800 pounds of meat and dairy. These products are responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all global transportation, require around 5 times as much water than alternative foods, and produce 130 times more waste than humans, often mishandled and contribute to ocean dead zones. The United Nations has warned that we need to reduce our animal product consumption to curb these catastrophic effects. Consumer behavior is just one of the badly needed reforms in our food system, but is also very complex to impact. Given my experience at Warped Tour, I recognize a cultural niche in the New York City and Long Island area that provided an entry point for change. In a recent study, people who favor heavy metal songs were linked to higher openness to experience than people who favor other genres of music. Spotify has identified metal as the highest global listener loyalty genre of 2015. With a community that is passionate and close-knit, meeting regularly at live performances. They show compassion and integrity, seen here in a grassroots mental health awareness project. Because of these positive traits, I decided to create Redemption Food. This is a sustainable food awareness program that uses the language and aesthetics common in metal music as a dramatic contrast to the green-looking environmental sector. Redemption Food allows people to make environmentally positive choices when grabbing fast food. The narrative never pushes the stigmatized word vegan or vegetarian. Instead, food is categorized as damnation, representing unsustainable food, or redemption, representing sustainable food. Redemption Food immortalizes food information via Instagram, as well as provides an experience of that information via live music events. The Instagram features 2 types of posts: food category guides and fast facts. The fast facts focus on data about specific foods, ranging from CO2 equivalents to water use. And livestock waste. The category guides cover a range of food items, from pizza to halal food to tacos and burgers. The post can be swiped to reveal a spectrum of food choices, the first being closest to damnation. Each menu item has data at the bottom as to why it's good or bad for the environment. The data ranges from biodiversity loss to water use, to CO2 equivalents. Here at the end, you can see redemption is the last image. To bring this data to life, I decided to host a sustainable food metal concert called Redemption Night. Upon entry, guests were given food tickets and a wristband with my Instagram name on it. The food tickets allowed one choice of empanada, either beef or rice and beans. I visualized the CO2 emissions and water use of each to see if it would affect their decision. The fast facts I've shown before were projected on stage. and the stage-light colors were customized to fit the theme. The performances paired with the graphics brought attention to the data in a way never seen before. I, as well as other attendees, really felt a high energy vibe and a strong sense of community. I believe this allowed us to freely have a conversation about sustainable food. About 5% of US citizens identify as vegetarian, but in my intervention, almost half the people chose the vegetarian item. I believe this was because they acted upon the data they saw. After the show, I sent out an online survey, which was mostly answered by meat eaters. It really blew my mind how even though nowhere did I say eat less red meat, people still came to the conclusion that red meat is an unsustainable food choice. 71% of respondents cited sustainable food as a key reason for attending another redemption night. One of the performers praised the designs for being more successful than other environmental messaging because it wasn't aggressive, but rather fun. Another attendee, Omaya, used redemption food to try to convince her mom to serve vegetarian food in her potential food truck business. Initially, I intended the communications dynamic to be challenge meat eaters in a non-aggressive way and reinforce the beliefs of conscious eaters. But something I didn't expect was for conscious eaters to also challenge meat eaters to change. This can be seen in Omaya's case when she showed redemption food to her mother. If redemption food could encourage meat eaters to eat one vegetarian item instead of meat a week, individually, that could save over 12,000 liters of water and 24 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent a week. In the future, redemption food could provide the data experiences more sustainably if it partners with existing events. The closest partner in my reach currently would be a local booking agency. Then I could partner with smaller scale, nationally touring festivals. Then eventually with larger scale and very popular touring festivals. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. One day, I received this message from a Chinese young man named Wang. I only know him from Chinese social media, so I just said, "Congratulations." Then he said, "No, I'm feeling a lot of pain right now." I asked him why. He answered me immediately, "I'm gay, I like men." Oh, really? He sent me his wedding photo. I thought it was fake at first. But he sent a photo of him and his wife. Then I realized he was telling the truth. And he told me the next day was his wedding day. He said, "I'm so tired." I asked him, "You should be with your wife tonight. What are you doing now?" He told me, "She is lying on the bed to watch TV. I'm sitting in a sofa and smoking without a word." That made me sad, that there are people in China that cannot be themselves and have to live a lie. Then I wanted to know how many people in China are living a lie like Wang. There are over 30 million gay men in China, and 90% of them have to pretend they are not and get married. Why? Because not marrying and having a baby boy is considered unfilial in China. For gay men, the most important reason is they don't want to make their parents feel shame. So I started interviewing a lot of parents. I met a family of mine. I asked him, "What would you do if your child was gay?" For some reason, he felt he could be honest with me. He told me, "Actually, I'm gay. No one knows exactly how many gay men in China live a life like this." The children continue to make the same decisions, to get married, to continue to pretend they are not who they are. Then I realized the cycle needed to be broken. It's difficult for me to change my parents' generation, but I thought maybe I can influence the behavior of the younger generation, because one day they might be their parents themselves. Chinese family never discuss topics related to sex, and definitely not be gay. The first step was to create a place where the discussion could take place, but I thought, why not in public? So I went to Beijing. Stood in middle of the busy square, wearing an outfit I made that said, "I'm gay. Would you like to give me a hug?" I used the blindfold to cover my eyes to put more emphasis on the message and not my face. Actually, I feel very nervous because I had no idea what would happen next. Then I heard a gentle voice. "Hello, I don't know you, but I support you." Then I said, "Thank you, you are the first person to hug me." "65 people give me a hug in 1 hour for a country where it is unacceptable to be gay. That was very encouraging. But of course, the policeman come, take off my blindfold and ask me to leave. I needed to continue the discussion in a safer environment. So I shared the video of the performance in social media to see if there would be a larger response. I wanted the video spread fast and far, so I paid a social media advertising company to promote it. Within an hour, I received this message. They sent my money back. They said that the content was restricted because it featured the word gay. Okay, then that for my American audience, it's very important to realize it's very common in China, and that's something that I, Linjie, had to design around. So I decided to post it without advertising on Weibo, the Twitter of China. And surprisingly, the video got 3 million plays within 5 days. In comparison, in America, only video Taylor Swift and Cats got that many plays that fast. Regardless, the Weibo removed my video from the hot list and changed the playback number to 90,000 to make it look less popular. The response was amazing. One person said, it moved them to tears. Even have the street people change their outlook. Many of people asked what happened as a result of the performance in Beijing. So I wrote an article to explain. Over 100,000 people read the article within 23 hours. Then the article started spreading as fast as the video did. A conversation was starting. Even have 2 guys decided to come out after reading the article. One of the most moving pieces of feedback from a father was, he said that now he felt the freedom to discuss the topic of being gay with his son. I was moved, but as a designer, I wanted to do more and cause a bigger discussion. So far, they simply watch the video, like it, and comment. It's good, but not enough. I think it revolves around me. What can I do for them to take their own actions? Then I realized it would be more powerful if I can get them involved, such as recording themselves, sharing their point of view on their own social media. The goal of my thesis wasn't to help the young gay people to come out. In the end, you cannot force that. Rather, I wanted them to know that people are supportive of their future son or daughter if they were gay. So I created the Togayther, an online gay liberation movement. I went straight again and asked people.
We will accept it.
I would be okay with it. I wouldn't have any problem.
I would love them and accept them.
What I do if my child is gay, I'd say, thank God. Me too.
I just raised him as a normal person, as a normal kid, you know?
不接受，绝对不接受，接受不了。
坚决支持 100%。 就是尊重他的选择，尊重他的生活方式。
Oh my god！
因为虽然我自己不能接受，但是孩子自己的选择那是他自己的人生道路。
这个问题还真没有想过，从来没有想过。
OK， 那你呢？
完全没有想过这个问题。
How to join the movement? First step, shoot a selfie video to answer what would you do if your son was gay. And second, hold a sign that says Togayther. Third, upload to Weibo or WeChat, a Chinese popular social network apps, and hashtag Togayther. Last one, invite 3 friends to do the same. My theory was that if I'm the only one posting a video, the government and social media companies can continue to stop me. But if hundreds and hundreds are doing the same, they won't be able to stop their heart and minds.
大家好，我是关之天。
我是刘国平。
如果我们的孩子是同性恋的话，
自然会爱我们的孩子，尊重他的选择。现在我们参与了这个 Togayther 传递活动，
我们就要把这份爱传递下去。我们会艾特我们的3位好朋友菲菲洞、李欣、
刘青。
如果你们的孩子是同性恋的话，你们会如何面对？
大家好，我是崔墨群。
我是刘文斌。
如果将来我们的孩子是同性恋，我们将选择依然爱他，支持他。
我们在参加 Togayther 这项传递活动，我将艾特我们3位好友何潇、王蕊、王文科。我想知道，如果你们的孩子是同性恋，你们会如何面对？
大家好，我是陈然。
我是耀杰。我们不确定孩子以后的性取向，但是我们可以确定的是，我们希望孩子一出生就可以做自己，我们希望他幸福。
我们要把爱传递给许云宇、曾明丽、倪依然。如果你的孩子是同性恋，你会怎么面对呢？
There are over 400 of these videos. That was a bigger response than I could have ever hoped for. The Togayther Weibo page got almost over 400,000 plays, and over 400 people talking about it within a week. People all over the country started sharing their own video, like a snowball effect. If 400 people share it with their social networks, and each of them have 1,000 friends, it will reach 400,000 people. That the growth is exponential. If this generation shows their support of gay people in social media, people will realize they are not alone in their thinking, and the acceptance will be more widespread. The government can keep a few people quiet, but cannot keep everybody quiet. The only way to truly break the cycle is by working together. So I think the majority of next generation of Chinese young people will have not to lie about who they are. I hope one day I can take a photo like this with my own child in China. 谢谢, thank you. Let's play together.
hear your name.
I know.
Hello.
We're back.
We're back. I'm Tina Park.
I'm Miya Osaki.
Miya.
Miya.
We're gonna tell Archie later. Miya. Miya. Okay, so, hi ladies. Design starts with identifying a problem. Designing for social innovation makes sure that that problem that's been identified is scalable and usable by large and underserved populations. In the real world, it takes months, maybe even years, to prove outcomes, and this is only after the problem has been identified. In DSI, within the course of a year, students identify their problem, conduct research with users, then design, sometimes divine, an intervention that will solve for the problem. Sounds easy, right? The group of 5 women that you'll see next started with very large problems, from dropout rates for students in transition to over-medication in the elderly to support for young cancer patients all over the world. These women have not been afraid to take on large problems, like most women.
Yeah.
They've spent their time as graduate students building a practice that takes insurmountable and sometimes even endemic problems and breaks them down into pieces that can be addressed within a school year. The thesis presentations that you will see demonstrate interventions that work in focused communities, such as homebound senior citizens in Harlem or suspended kindergartners in Newark. These projects are meant to be the first meaningful steps toward large-scale social innovations, or they can represent a way of thinking that lays the groundwork of the student's own socially driven design practice.
Design for social innovation requires students to roll up their sleeves and work within new contexts to truly understand unmet needs and build trust with people who have no idea who these students are or why they're there. Karla Despradel took this challenge to heart. Her thesis took her to a community called Togayther in the Dominican Republic, where many school-age children end up working in one of the largest landfills in the country. She bravely immersed herself in a classroom of 6th graders to understand their needs and design joyful interactions and ensure that the youth in these communities will continue to higher education.
Next, you'll hear from Genieve Ramrattan. Genieve started by breaking down loneliness in elderly populations. She spent many hours sitting with seniors in Harlem trying to understand how they spend their day. In her project, From Experience with Love, you'll see how the power of narrative can bridge generations and fill the gap that homebound seniors experience on a daily basis.
You'll hear from Jiajing Wu, who asks a very important question: how might we reduce preventable medication errors within our aging populations? She explores the particular needs of elderly patients and their loved ones as they navigate Shanghai's health system and introduces a more caring approach to healthcare.
And then you'll hear from Wen Tang. Wen has overcome her own set of challenges and obstacles trying to support cancer patients. She found that when facing the challenges of cancer and chemotherapy, a patient's basic needs become secondary and often forgotten. To address this problem, Wen designed Peer Up, a service for digitally connected patients, which harnesses the power of social networks to provide support for simple daily tasks.
And finally, last but not least, Jade Broomfield, who tackles the alarmingly high suspension rate of African American boys in elementary schools in the US. With tenacity and creativity, and always with her contagious smile, Jade flipped this problem into an opportunity to give these young boys a chance to rebuild confidence and self-worth. Her intervention, Time In, challenges assumptions and teaches us how to provide a stronger foundation for a new generation of super leaders. We just wanted to thank Cheryl and our fellow thesis core and all of the people that have helped us throughout this year. And join us in cheering on these students and all of the Design for Social Innovation graduates who are laying a pathway for future innovation.
Cool. Hello, my name is Karla, and I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, as the slide reads. And although I've lived there the vast majority of my life, I never knew that the trash I produced ended up in a landfill that provides the only economic income for a community living near it. The people in this community earn a living by diving into the landfill, sorting out recyclable materials to then sell. The relationship between this community and the landfill is so intrinsic that they share the same name, Duquesa. I had a very strong desire to understand this community, and I got to visit it. And while I was there, I met this very charismatic kid named Christopher, and this is what he shared with me. I like coming to school and seeing my friends, having all my assignments ready and not forgetting my pencil. Sometimes I forget it and I fall behind. I don't like when they bully me though. They call me names. They call me dirty, even though I'm wearing the same clothes as them and I showered in the morning as them. They know I help my dad in the landfill sometimes. They call me dirty because I live in Duquesa. I learned through Christopher and his friends that parents' priority is in providing for their family's immediate needs, and this prevents them from being more involved in their education. So every day, going to school is a decision an 11-year-old has to make on his own. This was completely shocking for me at first, but then I understood what it really meant. It means these kids are opting every day for an education because they value it, and in spite of hard barriers at a very young age, they're resilient. The risk of not completing their education basically ensures them a life of poverty, scavenging through a landfill. This impacts not only their quality of life, but their health and their well-being. I have found that within their entire education, there's one moment where they're at most risk of dropping out. This moment is when kids in Duquesa need to change schools between 6th and 7th grade. I have learned in 7th grade, kids get demotivated to go to school and drop out. And as a result, 30% of the kids in Duquesa never make it to high school. So what would demotivate a very resilient kid like Christopher, right? So in my research, I've learned that kids go from a small community school to a bigger school that serves multiple communities. And that transitioning from the majority to the minority leaves them feeling as if they don't belong. When Christopher and his friends attended school in a classroom of 15 kids, now they're in a bigger classroom of 45, where they lack attention and recognition from their teachers. Kids from Duquesa are often discriminated against because of where they come from and what their parents do. This causes conflict with classmates that come from other villages, and this can quickly escalate to violence. I learned that it happens because kids haven't learned healthy conflict management skills. Every day, Christopher helps out Dad in the landfill after school, and he worries about helping his family financially. This is the same for many other kids in Duquesa. This worry often prevents them from focusing on school. So my hypothesis is that if these 4 needs are met, then kids from Duquesa would regain motivation to go to school, thus lessening dropouts. So for this, I created Trueque. Trueque is an intervention that lessens schools dropouts by keeping kids motivated to go to school. Trueque is a Spanish word, and it means value exchange, and that's what this program is all about. So it works in 3 stages that they cycle in the duration of a school semester. That's the agreement, playing it out, and redeeming rewards. So I got to pilot Trueque with 42 very eager 7th graders for 4 whole weeks, and here's how it worked. So Trueque empowered their kids through workshops, including teachers and school staff, to address what would make school a place that kids wanted to go to. In these workshops, kids were given space to reflect on past situations of conflict and imagine how they could be better addressed in the future. Together, the entire class created an agreement on how they decided they were going to treat each other. This gave kids autonomy on creating their own social norm, and it also provided a common understanding of how everybody is to behave no matter what community you come from. And like any other contract, they all got to sign it, of course, and this was the kids' favorite part. So Trueque then reinforced the agreement through a reward system. For every day that a kid honored the agreement, they had a chance to win tokens. Understanding that behavior change is incremental and a learning process, kids got a brand new opportunity each day to practice and to win. The tokens they accumulated could be redeemed in their local bodega, where Maritza, the owner, eagerly awaited them. So they could exchange their earnings for various items, ranging from ice creams, shoes, even rice for mom. Rewards aren't only used as to incentivize behavior, they're also aimed to lessen the financial burden that many times is a deciding factor for kids dropping out. So what happened in these 4 weeks? And did it make school a place kids wanted to go to? It did. 100% of the kids reported that they noticed positive change in behavior in themselves and or in their classmates. They all reported they enjoyed participating and would recommend it to a friend. There were also some surprises. Teachers reported less absences within the second week of the program. Unintentionally, Trueque became a tool for teachers in classroom management. It changed peer interaction between teachers, and when it came to address the concerns of their students. As Francisca said, their math teacher, with Trueque, kids were more aware of their behavior. I could teach 2 of my classes in 1. They were so attentive. Trueque also opened a bigger conversation in the community about the value of keeping kids in school, and the bodega was the hub for these interactions. And within the 3rd week, kids started redeeming school materials, like pencils, from the bodega, in its effect reinvesting their earnings back into their education. So dropout rates due to student demotivation isn't limited to Duquesa, it's a national problem. Duquesa is just one example of where a program like Trueque can intervene. For me, what's exciting of this intervention is that it has the ability to adapt to other places, to other kids in similar situations. So when can Trueque be put most at use? Whenever kids are forced to transition to communities with different social norms and values, finding it hard to adapt. Whenever kids are forced to negotiate between helping their family out financially and attending school. This can be seen all over the country, from kids helping their families farm in the countryside, fishing in the coast, or polishing shoes in big cities. This is the right time for this program as well. Due to growing public demand, the government increased the national budget of education by 70%. And although that's a great investment, primarily focused on infrastructure, not enough is being done to understand the emotional needs of the kids that they serve. Trueque can help fill that gap. By partnering with Dominican companies interested in social good, we will ensure financial sustainability of the program. Trueque is about promoting social equality, keeping kids motivated to go to school by reducing everyday worry, giving them agency and social skills that will benefit them long term. Duquesa is one example of this, of how mustering kids' motivation for their own education has the potential to positively impact an entire community, making kids like Christopher agents of that change. Thank you.
Hi, everyone here and everyone at home watching. I'm Genieve, and this is Miss Bell. I met Miss Bell a few weeks ago, and this is a picture of her when she was younger. And that's Rosa Parks that she's standing next to. This photo of Miss Bell meeting the late civil rights activist and hero is right beneath a picture of Miss Bell graduating from law school. She's also traveled the world, from Africa to Europe to the Caribbean. Her living room is overflowing with souvenirs and pictures of her trips. She's vivacious, funny, smart, and tries to approach everything with compassion. She's now 78 and housebound. After suffering from a spinal injury, she can't stand or walk. She lives alone in a senior apartment building in East Harlem. On a typical day, she has contact with a visiting nurse and a Meals on Wheels delivery person. She gets phone calls from family and friends, but that's the extent of her contact with the world, of her contribution to the world. Miss Bell, like many other housebound seniors who want to participate actively in society, lacks access to avenues to do so. This lack of access leads to social isolation. Research shows that social isolation is a serious risk to health, especially for seniors already facing a plethora of health concerns associated with aging. From my research, I've discovered that the indicators of social isolation that have the potential to pose health risks include lack of participation in social activities, and as I mentioned before, seniors who can't leave their homes don't have access to opportunities to participate in social activities. For example, when I asked Lulu about this, she said, "Well, I can't get out. That's the problem." Small social circles. And seniors typically have very small social circles due to time, distance, and unfortunately, the passing away of friends and family. For example, Doyle told me that he felt lonely when his wife passed away. Living alone and feelings of loneliness. And more than just feelings of loneliness, 60% of housebound seniors suffer from depression. For example, Hermes told me that he'd been living on his own for 40 years, and of course he gets lonely sometimes. So I wanted to give these seniors more opportunities to engage with the world, because more engaged seniors are healthier seniors. And through my research, I've learned that seniors aren't actually that interested in connecting to each other, but rather their self-worth is strongly tied to their contribution to their community. So I needed to create opportunities for seniors to not just connect and not just engage, but to actively contribute to their communities. And they have a lot to contribute. These are people who've literally been through it all. Immigration to a brand new country, parenthood, war, love, loss. They're invaluable stores of hard-won wisdom. From Experience with Love is an intervention that leverages the most valuable collective resource of housebound seniors, their vast breadth of life experience. It's essentially an advice column that moves from digital to analog media to connect the digital natives of the world with housebound seniors of East Harlem who don't quite know what the internet is about. Seriously, my seniors don't have computers or smartphones. They're among the precious few on earth who still use landlines. And this intervention not only allows seniors to draw on their life experience to help curious, questioning young people, but in a hyper-connected digital world where everything is tweeted, texted, reacted to, fact-checked, spell-checked, or trolled in mere seconds, it gives digital natives thoughtful, handwritten responses to personal questions. For example, Jeremy is 25 years old, and he submitted a question via the From Experience with Love online platform about how he could give his opinion on issues related to politics and gender without offending his friends, who he says has very different views from him. His letter was printed, enveloped, and sent to Miss Bell via her Meals on Wheels deliverer. So, Meals on Wheels is the only reliable daily interaction that many of the housebound seniors in East Harlem have. This intervention hacks that delivery method so that the Meals on Wheels program at the Union Settlement Jefferson Senior Center can not just offer a meal and a few minutes of interaction per day, but an avenue for seniors to contribute to society, to feel needed. Ms. Bell read the letter and patiently penned a thoughtful response, From Experience with Love, which went back with her Meals on Wheels deliverer and was then posted online to Jeremy. The letter included advice like, some say topics relating to religion, politics, and gender should be avoided. I disagree. When prefaced with love in word and deed, there is acceptance. We live in a world of diversity and various beliefs. Therefore, all of us matter. I believe respect and empathy is the way to approach any discussion. When I checked in with him, Jeremy said, the response made me remember something I forgot some time ago, speaking in love and not judgment. Nowadays, a discussion devolves into a tit-for-tat that ends in a sullen silence when the two parties stand by their opposing views. No real understanding has taken place, but I now recall that empathy and love is the true foundation to establishing a middle ground. Thank you for the response. It was very thought-provoking, and it made me look inward. And the majority of questions sent into the online platform were like Jeremy's. They were questions about how to navigate life's rough spots, questions about relationships, about balancing life and career, about difficult choices. They were questions from young people who didn't quite know where else to turn. And as for Miss Bell, when I checked in with her, she said, "When I was younger, I went all over the world. Now that I'm in this bed, I like that the world is coming in to me." And there are opportunities to scale, because there are so many other systems out there waiting to be creatively hacked to give the 3.6 million housebound seniors in the US opportunities to contribute and connect. I'm currently in conversation with the Brooklyn Public Library and Writopia, a creative writing lab in New York, about how we can work together to scale up this intervention. Because this is not just a connection between analog and digital worlds, but between generations. It attempts to connect the experience of age with the curiosity of youth and spark conversations between the two groups to the mutual benefit of both the advice askers and givers. So, From Experience with Love has the potential to help seniors feel less lonely, and thus it has the potential to improve health outcomes. But it also connects us to an untapped resource in the life experiences of seniors. It reminds us of their vibrancy, their willingness to help, their humanity. It's designed for senior dignity, for not only meeting practical needs, but for adding value to the lives of people who've literally been through it all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jiajing. My thesis is a drug and symptom diary for elderly patients. But first, let me tell you how I got here. This is me and my grandma. I was raised by her. We were very close. She's over 90 years old now. She's a walking pharmacy. And a year ago, it nearly killed her. In last July, my grandma was hospitalized for an episode of extreme sleepiness, weakness, and confusion. She found that her cardiologist doubled the dose of her heart disease medication. This caused a fast drop in blood pressure and leaving her completely disoriented and unable to stand or sit up. This result shocked me, and I just realized that over-medication of the elderly is an all too common problem. I'm not the only grandkid to experience this kind of accident. In China, the elderly over 65 years old, almost 80% of them have heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. More than 40% of them take 5 or more medications. And each year, about 1/3 of them experience a serious adverse effect, like a bone-breaking fall, disorientation, even heart failure. 16% of the Chinese population is the elderly, which means 27 million elderly people are experiencing adverse drug reaction. This statistic is surprising, but true. I feel very regretful. If I could have helped my grandma organize all her medication before, that accident wouldn't have happened. So how can I prevent these things from happening to other elderly patients? My goal is to create a tool which will help young family members to work with their grandparents with multiple chronic diseases to better understand their medications. So why young family members? Because they are their close, informal caregivers who learn things fast and also care about their grandparents' health. Besides, complete medication and supplement information is so important for doctors' decisions. A new prescription without knowing other medications or even daily health products can lead to adverse drug reaction or simply be ineffective. Each senior should always have a current diary of their medications on them at all times. So my intervention is a workshop for young family members who want to learn more about health knowledge for their grandparents and meet for new friends. The workshop is hosted by a social community. With that workshop, young family members will get a tool to help elderly patients to organize their formal medication history. That tool will also help doctors to make better decisions for elderly patients. So first, how can I get the young generation involved? The interesting in Chinese culture, we think family is the most important thing. So most people want to meet new friends who would also treat their families well. I partnership with Thoughtful Single Wang. It is a large community that organizes and posts news and events through Chinese main social media, which is WeChat. The Thoughtful Single Wang is a community for those who want to meet someone with a common personality or interest. We designed an offline event together called To Find the One with the Same Beautiful Mind. This event provided people with a chance to meet others who also think that taking good care of their families is an important part of their lives. The event was hosted by the Thoughtful Single Wang. I met Yao during this event. She's 27 and works in a big corporation. She's from a single-parent family, and the father is always on business trips. Most of the time, she lives with her grandma. She said, "Grandma is the most important person in my life." She was interested when she saw this event on WeChat. She wanted to learn more health information about elderly people and also to meet someone who is interested in taking care of family. The event started with few small icebreaker activities. After a small video about why a complete medication list for the elderly is important in preventing overmedication and adverse drug reaction. The host introduced a simple, useful, accurate tool, which is this diary, that helps people to prepare a complete medication list for their grandparents every time they visit doctors. So the most common mistake in preparing the medication list is that people cannot locate the correct information from the pill box or medical history book. This is often due to the unclear naming traditions. The diary solves this problem by providing detailed instructions on how to accurately find useful medication information from any pill box and medical history books. As required by the event, Yao brought her grandma's medical history book. That was her first time learning that complete medication information, including clinical diagnosis, date, pill name, chemical name, dosage, frequency, content, and company name. During the exercises, she realized that health products such as green tea, cranberry pills, and flaxseed oil can potentially have negative effects on some medicines. These health products are natural blood thinners, and taking them would compromise the medication for heart disease. The event had significant increased Yao's awareness on the issue. After she went home, she sat with her grandma to learn about her grandma's current medication. She also decided to take her grandma to recheck with doctors and ensure there is no risk of overmedication and adverse drug reaction. With the diary, the doctor found her grandma's daily medication of high blood pressure has drug reactions with another heart disease medicine. Taking these two together at the same time increased the risk of slow heartbeats. And both of them are common medications for high blood pressure and heart disease. So the most obvious impact of this event was the increased awareness on the risk of overmedication that their grandparents are facing. Yifan mentioned after the event, I used to think that old people taking lots of medicine was normal. But now I realize that it could also be over-medication. It is nothing but a form of slow suicide. Another impact of this event is the interaction between young family members and the grandparents. It enhances the bond between the two generations. As Ying said, although my grandparents and I don't live together, so I can't take care of them every day. But now, I really want to spend time with them when next time they visit the doctors. The event not only lowers the risk of over-medication for the elderly patients, it also provided a chance for their grandparents to enjoy some family time with their grandchildren. The diary is also designed for doctors' need for clearer patient's history and better diagnosis. Dr. Zhang said, if family members do this diary carefully, they will better understand their grandparents' diseases and the medications. Also, they will help me to make better decisions. Thoughtful Single One has more than 5,000 members in China, and hosting an offline event monthly in different cities around China is a visible star. For this event, 37 people joined it, and all of them were very engaging in discussing this topic. So every person has 4 grandparents, which means at most this intervention will benefit 148 elderly patients. In the future, these offline events will get more and more people involved, and the drug and supplement diary will help more and more elderly patients. Caregiving isn't easy. It is fraught with many obstacles. But having said that, it is also one of the most rewarding things a person can do. So for our beloved grandparents, thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wen. Today, I want to share a story with you about Amy. I met Amy a few months ago. She's 29 years old, lives in the city, and just like us, dreams for her future. But last year, 3 words from her doctor changed her entire life. You have cancer. She was totally shocked, worried, and upset about all of the uncertainty that the disease brought to her. Cancer treatment is not an easy process. Most patients have side effects during and after treatment, like fatigue, weakness, nausea, dizziness, and pain. Cancer treatment is not only the hard on a patient's physical health, but their mental and emotional health can also suffer. You definitely need someone to be there, at least to make sure you have food to eat, Amy said to me. Because of the compromised immune system, Amy has to spend most of her time at home. This physical isolation means that she can't hang out with her friends, pursue her goals, and make the most of her life. Just like Amy, there are 60,000 young adults facing the similar challenge every year in the US, which means this disease is affecting a huge number of people that could have a bright future. A few challenges make this even more difficult for Amy. Like many other young adult cancer patients, she lives far away from her parents and family who might be able to support her. She has the support of her husband, but he works every day. Then I asked Amy, so how do you deal with these difficulties? Your family is not here, your husband needs to work. Have you asked your friends? She paused for a second and said, actually, my friends, they're super nice and helpful. but it's just hard for me to ask because I feel like I'm a burden and I don't really want to interrupt my friend's schedule. Emma, one of Amy's best friends, told me, I really want to help her, but I don't always know what I can do. Sometimes I asked, but I also concerned that she might be too tired and it's better not to bother her. And when other friends come to me and ask about her, I don't always know the answer. At that moment, I realized that there's a disconnect. Young adult cancer patients who are under treatment often have difficulties communicating what they need. And at the same time, friends would like to offer support, but they don't know what to do. What if I can make the communication process between them easier? With that question in my mind, and to understand the situation that patients are facing and the need they have, I immersed myself in this environment, visiting hospitals, talking to patients, their family members, friends, healthcare providers. Here are the 4 most important things I have learned. Patients often need the most help with daily life activities 1 or 2 days after having chemotherapy. And some of the needs reoccur after each chemo. Patients usually have one close friend within their friend circle who becomes the point person that connects the patients to other friends. It is easier for patients to be offered help than to ask for help. And because patients spend most of their time at home, the most common way for them to connect with their friend is through the phone. So, put all of this insight together. I designed Peer Up for Cancer. It is an app that bridges the gap between the patient's need and their friends' desire to help. Through Peer Up, patients can invite their friends to join their support network, create their own categories about their needs, post a need, share schedule with their friend, and receive caring message from friends. Let's see how Peer Up can help Amy. She finds out about Peer Up while waiting for her chemo session to start. She's curious and wants to try it with her best friend. So she downloads this app and invites Emma to be the contact person of her support network. She then thinks about the needs she often has after chemo. So for example, the last few times she didn't even have the energy to prepare food for herself. And now with Peer Up, she can ask her friends to help with it. By asking them in advance, she won't have to worry about it when she feels extremely tired. And at the other side, Emma knows exactly what Amy needs and when to deliver it. She picks up grocery and makes lunch for Amy that day. Sometimes Emma can't help Amy, but with her permission, she asks other friends to help out. As a main contact person, Emma can invite more friends to join Amy's support network. Together, they can figure out how to make Amy's life easier. Several days after, Emma wants to know when Amy's next chemotherapy is. She just needs to open the calendar on the app. Here, she found out that will be on Friday. To encourage her, Emma sent Amy a funny video and says, "Let me know if you need any help after chemo." Amy is so glad to receive the message. She feels loved and supported. I tested Peer Up with a group of patients and their friends using Messenger. Here's the feedback I got. A patient said to me that, "I feel it was easier because I know my friend has an understanding that they're gonna be helping me." And during the testing process, a patient asked her friend for help finding a wheelchair, but none of them could find one. I used to think friend not being able to fulfill patient's need could be a limitation for the tool. But I found that even when friends could not help, the patients still feel thankful because they all tried to figure it out together. One of friends shared with me that I love this idea because it gives me the ability to know what they need and how I can help them. And the patient's sister said, I think the more hands that are willing to help, the easier the patient and the caregiver's life will be. Instead of having 3 people, it would be nice to have 10 people to help out with some less personal needs, such as transportation, groceries, or even just to send some funny video or send a message, something to make her smile. This support network can start with just a few close friends. And the close friends could invite other friends to join if the patients need it. This could eventually lead to better mental and physical health outcomes. I will continue developing and testing the app and work with social workers in hospitals to make the app fit for the current cancer care system. As friends, we can't control this disease, but together, we can help patients take control of their lives so they can pay attention to what is truly important for them, their health. To make it happen, I invite you to peer up for cancer. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And also hello to my family that is watching right now and all of my coworkers that are projecting this in our office. I appreciate you. My name is Jade Broomfield, and before I tell you all about my thesis intervention time in, I'd like to take you back to September 2016, where I met Idris. Idris is a 5-year-old preschooler from Newark, New Jersey. Like most preschoolers, he loves coloring, playing, and classroom activities that involve toys. Unlike most preschoolers, he was suspended 7 times last year, which accumulated into an expulsion this past December. The expulsion left Idris at home and his desk empty for almost 40 days before his mom could find another school for him to attend. And I know, that story may sound insane, but it's true. Nationally, preschoolers get suspended. A deeper issue is that Black male preschoolers are disproportionately suspended in comparison to their classmates of other races. They make up 19% of preschoolers in America, but 48% of preschoolers who get suspended. In addition, these students, similar to Idris, are likely to get suspended again. This led me to ask, what does a future of repeated suspensions look like? Students miss, on average, 1 to 2 days of school when they're suspended. The more suspensions they get, the more days of school they miss. Nationally, students who miss 3 or more days of school are likely to fail their grade level. This is consistent throughout their entire education. Failing a grade level for a high school student creates a higher risk of dropping out. A 2014 study shows that Black male high school dropouts have a 70% chance of going to prison. When you take a deeper look into our prison system, you'll see that Black men make up 13% of the US population, but 40% of our incarcerated population. This is weirdly similar to the suspension data I showed earlier. On a classroom level, multiple suspensions can predefine a student. Imagine being someone who had gotten suspended and knowing that your teachers are talking about you, that your classmates see you getting scolded repeatedly, and that you have no choice but to own up to the label of a bad kid because everyone around you has already determined you are one. Throughout this process, I interviewed adult men who had been suspended throughout their education and had even served prison time. Anthony shared a story with me about a time he had gotten sick, was out of school for days, and his classmates assumed that he had been suspended. He described his discipline record as a permanent face tattoo. After speaking with teachers, principals, and classroom aides, they summed up the cause for suspension as a lack of focus. In their words, students were not only lacking in personal rigor, but also acting as a distraction for their classmates. I considered myself as a 23-year-old girl in New York City, and that I have an arsenal of mindful activities to find focus, from yoga to music to surrounding myself in silence. I asked myself, why haven't we created the same type of mindful opportunities in schools for students who need it? Through research, I found that one school in particular had participated in replacing desk detention with meditation, and in return, they saw a decrease in their school-wide suspension rate. I decided to prototype this idea with 3 4-year-old boys in Newark. Introducing mindfulness to my target audience is unique because this type of programming is commonly implemented in high schools and in middle schools, but not elementary schools. While meditation is great, and the kids that I worked with were like were going with it with me, they were like visibly uncomfortable with sitting in silence for long periods of time. So I knew that in building this intervention, I needed to create something that reflected their personalities as much as it was going to help them. While thinking on the type of men my cohort of suspended students were going to grow up to be, my goal for Thesis was to create something that would help them become more self-confident, determined, and leaders in the classrooms. In their words, a confident, determined leader is a superhero. And when combining the idea of being a superhero and being mindful, I noticed that yoga moves look a lot like superhero moves when you put a cape on them. So now we're at my intervention, Time In, where the bad kids become the good guys. The program is a space in the school day where a suspended student can redefine himself. It is mind and body focused, addressing the high and low energy needs of these students. Both are proven ways of decreasing stress, increasing self-confidence, and improving behavior among children within this age group. It takes a village to raise a child, and because of this, Time In is a collaborative program. School leaders introduced the program to faculty and parents, embedding it into the school culture. Through a partnership with a local yoga studio, volunteer trainees teach the program for free, and in return receive hours towards their yoga certifications. Teachers monitor a student's growth in the classroom and help determine success. And parents, our gatekeepers, ensure the authenticity of the program because no one knows the student better than they do. The program is currently active in one school with 6 students participating. Over a 2-week prototype, each participant received no detentions, no suspensions, and had perfect attendance to school. Overall, the program has also gotten great feedback from everyone involved, especially the parents. Last month, Idris's mom said, "This makes sense. Even when he makes mistakes, he is still my little hero." It may be a while before we start to see significant growth within the students. This is a lifetime of change we're talking about. But I've thought about how Time In will work in the future. First, I'm very interested in trying it in cities besides Newark, like Camden, that face very similar issues with high school dropout and student performance rates. I also wonder how Time In can change the preschool experience. Think back to when you were 4. And preschool taught you how to share, how to count, and recite the alphabet. I believe that Time In has the opportunity to add an additional layer to this experience, resilience. I think about Idris's future and how he'll carry his cape with him from elementary school to middle school to high school. I think about the type of citizen that he has the opportunity to be and the contributions that he can give to society. All of this in part to having the chance to participate in a program that will invest the time in helping him own his definition and own his capabilities at a young age. Thank you.
Hello. It is my great pleasure to introduce the last set of students presenting today. I think they've been anticipating this all afternoon, building their anxiety. You guys ready? Yes? Okay. Tanvi is tackling a very complex problem. I think we all relate to the fact that change is hard. Now imagine this set in rural India where saving is not a very common activity. And so she has designed a really smart intervention that really tapped at the unconscious behaviors of that region. Mohammed, it is hard to imagine a future that Qatar is not financially viable. And I think, unfortunately, we only hear the stories of countries and cities that had not been more proactive in using an intervention like the one that you've designed. And I think also this process gave me further insight to how incredible and extraordinary your journey here to DSI in New York City has been. Sara, you have attempted to, it's very difficult, I think, to learn a language, but unfortunately it's very easy to lose a language, and your intervention to help parents prevent that from happening is very brave. And Pragya, hello. You have combined with using design thinking tools a solution to not only help a business grow at scale, but to tackle a very complex social impact issue. And Cheryl is right, by the way. You need to be kind to yourself. You're extraordinary. And to all of you students, this marks an important milestone. You're transitioning from being Archie, Jeff, Miya, Tina, and myself students to being our professional peers. We look forward to seeing you in future meetings and following your growth. Just why I can as a teacher, I'm gonna ask 3 more things of you guys. One is to make change. This timing right now for you guys to be coming out professionally to tackle complex problem it's never been more needed. Also, I want you guys to continue to tackle the problems that make you uncomfortable. The really meaty ones, the complex ones, and the ones that seem very difficult to find a solution for. And lastly, continue to be open-minded, suspend judgment, and keep that endless curiosity, okay? And thank you.
Is everybody ready to go to India? Hello. And hi everyone watching at home. Thank you so much for staying up in the middle of the night for this. I really appreciate it. Before I begin, I'm Tanvi by the way. Before I begin, I would like to ask you all, how many of us in this room have tried to save money? Most of us have. Much like sticking to a weight loss diet or adopting a new habit, it is very difficult. We all need motivation and a little push to keep us going. And now imagine how much more difficult it will be to save if all you are earning is less than $2 a day. As difficult as it is for us to imagine what this really means, this is the reality for 270 million people living in my home, most of them living in villages. So how do you find the motivation to save in a situation like this? Today, I'm going to talk to you about Hataat, a program that is trying to answer this question. To tell you all how, we are going to a small village in Akola. I wanted to understand what living on less than $2 actually means. So here, along with learning how to wear the traditional dress of the community, I also learned about how the people live and work and their relationship with money. While I was here, I met Varsha, who lives in the village with her 3 daughters. Like most other women here, she does not own any land. So she works on other farms near her home to earn money. A day's hard work earns her less than $2. This little amount of money is what she has to run her home, educate her girls, and then even try and save for their future. Her work in the farms is affected by the seasons, and so her income also keeps changing. These months of the summer are particularly very difficult for her. So her income, like we saw, is not only low, but is also unpredictable. There are some services in the village to help her save her money, like the bank, but she does not feel comfortable using these because she feels like she's losing control over her own money. So she does not use it. There are also self-help savings groups, which are essentially a government scheme in which a group of women come together, open a common bank account, and save money in it every month. But because it demands a fixed sum of money from her, it doesn't give her flexibility, so she does not use this either. So how does she save money then? I learned that saving for her is keeping the money left over after immediate expenses at home. But saving money at home is not easy. The biggest challenge she faces here is that she is not able to hold on to her money at home. It gets spent in small amounts over the week, so she can't retain anything. If anything at all does remain, it is so little that she doesn't consider it enough for her goals or to put in the bank. It is so little that it does not motivate her to save. So going back to this question, would these women who are the most financially vulnerable in the village be motivated to save if the saving experience could become tangible, flexible, maybe even fun? So putting all this together, I created Hataat, which means in my hand in Marathi. It is a program which gives the women 3 key things to enable them to save: a social commitment to save together, a trigger which helps them make a conscious decision to save, and a reward for keeping up this commitment. So now let me show you what this looks like. Through a workshop in the village, Varsha and her friends are introduced to the program, and they talk about their goals and why they are saving. They all make a commitment to save together, and also decide a day when they will take their savings to the bank. Next comes the trigger, which is a wallet just like her own. But it has a surprise. It has a hidden sleeve which can be attached inside with buttons. This becomes a trigger because it gives her a moment to consciously keep some part of her money aside as saving. While it makes the saved money hard to reach, it still gives her the option to use it if there is an emergency. Finally, on the day of the bank, the women take the saving and go and deposit it. Their visit is recorded in a community scorecard, and as a reward, they also receive a token just like this one. So I tested a short version of this with 20 women for 1 month, and it turned out to be a very significant month for these women. A majority of them were able to save much more than what they were saving before. Varsha, who had only 70 cents left over from the month before, surprised herself when she was able to save almost $14 now, which is about 1,000 rupees. This made them more confident about their savings and their ability to save. More important than the amount of money was the sense of control and agency that these women felt. It made Kanta feel more secure because she didn't have to borrow money to shop for her home in the market. They also wanted to continue doing this to save for some of the goals we spoke about in the workshop. Like Lalita said, she would save now for another month to buy a gas cylinder for her home, which she wasn't sure when she would be able to do otherwise. Each woman determined how much or how little she could save, so this did not put any pressure on her to save. She used the wallet in a way that she decided. So all this made the experience of saving flexible for her. Like Pramila told me, she was not scared that a self-help group officer would come to her home and take something away if she was not able to save. Another reason why the women were able to save was that they took this up as a challenge. Being a part of this small group, making this social commitment, made them, like Yamuna said, want to prove that they could do it. But even if they were saving more than what they were before, they were still hesitant to take this money to the bank. And apart from the apparent reasons like the increased unpredictability of income at this time or the physical distance to the bank, this pointed to a subconscious behavior of hesitation, maybe even distrust, which is stopping them from using the bank. Today, the government of the country is making huge efforts to bring the 270 million people we spoke about earlier into the fold of a more secure financial system, which is what makes a program like Hataat very relevant now, because it is enabling an important part of this effort, saving at home. The next step for this program would be to understand more deeply the behavior which is causing the gap between savings and the bank, to explore other alternatives to financial security. For these women like Varsha, the journey to a stable financial life is very, very long and incredibly hard. Hataat is a small but sure first step. It is a framework of a social commitment, trigger, and reward, which has the potential to be scaled and adapted to many more villages like this one in Akola, so that many more women like this are able to keep their savings in their hand. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Mohammed, and I'm from Qatar. And today I just want to start with a question. I want to ask all of you what would happen to your country and state if the industry that's keeping it alive collapses. History tells us of examples like the Detroit automotive industry or the North England manufacturing industry, both examples of how putting all your eggs into one basket leads to problems such as unemployment, poverty, or even homelessness. Now, imagine what that means to my home, Qatar. We put our eggs into one basket, fueling the world's need for power. 87% of our exports is fuel, oil and natural gas. How can Qatar sustain itself in a world that is less dependent on fossil fuels? Renewable energy is no longer a trend. 23% of electricity produced in 2016 was from a renewable source, either solar, wind, or water generated. But Qatar has been proactive in seeking a more diverse economy. They have been investing in changing the main export into knowledge and expertise, lowering our dependency on fossil fuel production alone. To diversify the skills of the future workforce, the government has invested in programs and initiatives that assist in important stages like education, university preparation, and career development. And that in the plan is called the Human Development Pillar. And surprisingly, all of which lie along the path of our next generation of our workforce, high school students. These programs and initiatives improve proficiency in subjects. They help them reach entry requirements to universities. And they also give them internship opportunities to help them visualize themselves in those positions. The plan aims to diversify our local knowledge and expertise in fields that lack it, areas such as health, science and research, agriculture, and education. So I wanted to know if it has been taken effect. This problem has been there for a while, and these plans have been there for a while as well. Let's take a look at 1,591 students on grants. These are students who are pursuing their undergraduate education through Qatar's grant system. Almost 23% of them, 377 students, are studying business administration, compared to 5 people majoring in health, 4 majoring in education, and 1 person majoring in agriculture. It's clearly not working. I wanted to understand what do high school students in Qatar base their decision on. So I spent the last few months talking to them, and I came to understand which factor weigh heaviest in their decision making when they're looking at a career or at a major to study. Students want to talk with a specialist. Right now, their main source of information is their parents and peers. This limits the knowledge students are getting because of parents not being able to answer all of their questions. And the questions they do know how to answer, it's either because they're knowledgeable about it or that they know someone that's knowledgeable about it. They want to know what the job is like, but not in a way to get credits and that's it, but have a meaningful experience that allows them to visualize themselves in that position. They also wanted to know the academic requirements to enter these fields. They want to plan earlier, a strong opposition to what I thought that they were not engaged with their planning at all. And finally, they want to know the relevance of the field. What are the challenges we're facing? Who is tackling them? And who will benefit from the solutions they create? So I based my intervention around those 4 insights to allow students to explore a field that they're interested in, rather than be restricted to what an event or their school had to offer. I wanted to take them there. I wanted them to see the built environment. They want to be inspired. They want to interact with people. They want to get information from the source, a very experienced source, where they can learn about universities they could enroll in, or even how what they're learning today can be applied in those fields. And I wanted to deliver the information about the challenges and projects in certain fields that in an engaging and fun method. So I created Get to Know. It's an outreach activity that organizations who work in fields that lack local knowledge and expertise could use to reach and inspire high school students. I'm working with the Qatar Foundation, Qatar's biggest contributor to human development. Because of them, Qatar has now become the educational hub of the region. And I'm starting with the field of science and research with the Qatari Environment and Energy Research Institute, KIRI for short. Please remember that, I'll be using it a lot. One of Qatar Foundation's initiatives. So, repetition is good, right? Get to Know helps organizations such as Qatar Foundation share initiatives such as KIRI. Okay, we'll go back. One more time. Such as KIRI to inspire students who are shaping Qatar's future. So I want to talk to you through how Get to Know interacts with 2 students, Kana and Al-Walid. So during the first 15 minutes of class, students get to play a modified version of a local game called Sijin. It's like Sorry, but with a trivia element. In order for players to advance through the game, they have to answer trivia questions that share information about the science and research sector in Qatar, its challenges, and who is working to tackle them. For example, information about projects regarding our limited supply of fresh water and how we could better use salinated water. This problem is not unique to Qatar. It's the whole region. Just being in a desert environment means that multiple countries can benefit from solutions like this one. Once the game is done, students can continue their experience and sign up to visit an institution based on the topic that resonated with them the most. The game has information about computer science, biomedicine, and energy. Kana and Al-Walid decided to visit KIRI. KIRI has a state-of-the-art facility that hasn't been opened to the public yet. The Qatar Foundation and KIRI will facilitate a trip where students can come, interact with researchers, tour their labs and the facilities they use. They arrive at KIRI and they're greeted by Dr. Hassan, a hydrogeologist. First, they toured the facility, where they got a behind-the-scenes look at scientists in action. Here, they met Dr. Yahya Zakaria in blue while he was using an electron microscope, which Kana and Al-Walid found very interesting. They were also able to spend time asking questions that were important to their development, like specific answers to where they could specialize in renewable energy fields, and what subjects they need to focus on in school that will be applied later in their career, if they chose to be a researcher. Kana and Al-Walid now have a path to follow based on their interaction with Get to Know. They understand what they need to focus on to specialize in the field of science and research. They can plan their work experience and even got a recommendation for a university that is part of our grant system. This is something they can take advantage of. They can go there for free, guys. And then At the end, they can also learn about all the organization and partners that work in tandem with an organization such as Kiri, giving them the opportunity to discover all of these prospective employers, the places where they could work. It's not restricted to a lab or a lab coat. They can work in multiple places and still work with Kiri. Students were inspired by the activity. Get to Know allowed them to see themselves in a world where they could engage with institutions such as Kiri. It gave them an incentive to actually put some effort into researching a career into those subjects. And it allowed them to see and experience a world that is usually not open to the public. Before this, Kiri, the science and research sector, was shrouded. But because of Get to Know, it's achievable. It humanized it, and it made them see themselves in a place like this in the future. Compared to the US's 3.5 million high school students, Qatar only has 40,000 high school students at any given time. Inspiring just 1% of them, or 400 students, would have a great effect on how diverse our workforce can be in the future. And finally, inspire students to explore the diverse fields that are needed to build a knowledge-based economy. Changing the content and destination of Get to Know to reflect fields such as medicine, education, or agriculture, giving bright students like Kana and Al-Walid to help create a resilient Qatar. Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. I'm Sara Al Kuwari and I'm from Qatar. I want you to imagine yourself if you can't talk to your grandparents because you both talk different languages. And imagine missing out on listening to all the stories they have told you, taking in their advice and life wisdom. So this is my cousin Al-Anud. Most of her childhood she lived abroad because her father was a diplomat. She attended an international school where English is the main language. She grew up knowing her first language, Arabic, but due to her life abroad, she lost it with time. And when she moved back home to Qatar, she had faced difficulties communicating with family members, and until this day, she is facing struggles finding a job and doing her job because she didn't know the language. She always relied on someone else to translate anything she would come across. Now, my niece is in the same position as Al-Anud and many other Arab children. So Arab countries are suffering from serious displacement, where a lot of families are moving abroad for better opportunities for them. Arab population grew in the US by almost 23% between 2000 and 2008. Arab expat families temporarily residing in the US unintentionally create disadvantage for their children who are losing their fundamental Arabic skills, which will affect their communication skills for their eventual return to their home country. So the parents have expressed how they are very concerned about their children losing their first language and the consequences they will face when they move to their home country. They have been noticing it gradually happening, where the kids got to the point where they have forgotten the basic of the language and having difficulties communicating with other Arab speakers, such as their extended family members. Sara, a mother of 4, she's from Sudan, explained how her kids' situation when they visited their home country. They are trying and sometimes they get frustrated. Whenever they face a hard understanding from anyone, they would come to me and I would help them understand by explaining to them what the other person said. The kids do identify their first language to be Arabic, and even though they don't seem to know it as much as their second language, English, Abdurrahman said to me, I want to be able to read Arabic books because it's my language. And Lily says, I want to communicate with my father in his language, Arabic, just like I'm communicating with my mom in her language, Spanish. So the question is, what are some challenges that are stopping the kids from continued learning of the Arabic language. The common reasons were parents lack time to plan, organize, and teach their kids the formal Arabic language. Parents cannot afford to take their kids to Arabic language classes. Parents are not familiar with their teaching methods and approaches. Lack of resources, modern teaching materials for parents to use, and lack of continuous program to leverage sustainable learning methods. So I have identified to work with parents to benefit the kids. The kids age group from 6 to 10 years old. This age of children prevents them from furthering their Arabic language skills without help. It would be relevant to teach them starting with the fundamentals. So how can Arab children learn and maintain their language after temporarily moving to a foreign country? This is Lugaty. Lugaty, my language, it's an Arabic language program for Arab parents living in the US to help them teach their kids the language, maintain it, and avoid significant communication challenges in the future. Lugaty consists of 3 parts: Hurufi, my letters, Kalimati, my words, and Yalla Nal'ab, let's play. My approach is to keep the learning sustainable for a long run by providing a continuous program of different levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, providing the directions and resources for the parents to build their confidence and teaching skills. Help the parents to organize the goals and outcomes by giving them direction of what the kids should be learning weekly. It is also simple directions for the kids, keeping them engaged, motivated, excited, and fun for them, a way that doesn't take much energy and time for both the kids and parents, but also active and collaborative. It is designed to be daily in a home setting and family-oriented by embedding the Arabic learning within the family daily life, integrated into their routine rather than a class session. So each week, the kids will learn different materials by doing different activities of 3 parts. Part 1, Hurufi, my letters, is an interactive calendar. Each day would have a letter of the day and how it pronounced written in English. The kids get to rip the card and hang it anywhere in the house, so they will see it whenever they pass by it and eventually memorize it. Weekly, they are learning 3 to 4 letters. By this method, it is taking the time, pressure off of parents. It is pre-planned and something that the children can lead themselves. And the children were excited to see what came next. Part 2, Kalimati, my words. This batch contains words that starts with the same letter they have learned earlier. Casually, when the family is having breakfast together, the parent will introduce the word of the day. They get to stick it also next to the calendar card as well. Each week, the words are themed, for example, animals, objects, and fruits and vegetables. It is folded into the fabric of daily living by becoming incorporated at the breakfast table or morning ritual and then integrated in the home setting. The conversation starts with a word that can lead to spelling words and a dialogue about the difference between formal Arabic and other dialects. Part 3, Yalla Nal'ab, let's play. By the weekend, the kids would have learned different words and letters. Yalla Nal'ab is a kit that contains worksheets, activities, and games that the parents will coordinate, and they will get to test the kids' learning from that week. It is designed for parents to keep track on their kids' knowledge and learnings, such as a worksheet of match and draw a line between the Arabic letter and how it's pronounced written in English, mix and match letters and images of the words, memory matching game, revealing cards of Arabic letters and how its pronunciation written in English. The kids will turn 2 cards around until they match them all of them. And a magic box, which a storytelling method. So before I have introduced Lugaty to families, the kids didn't know and couldn't recognize any of those Arabic alphabets. But after 3 weeks of learnings, they are able, by solving the activities from Let's Play part, they are able to know and pronounce these 9 letters and 18 words. Kids have been using the vocabulary within their conversation. And 100% correct answers from draw line, mix and match, and memory matching game. So this final stage, Yalla Nil'ab, has kids applying the knowledge they've learned. This also acts as a way to test the kids' comprehension and effectiveness of the previous stages and parts. So parents were satisfied with the results of the intervention. They have observed how effective it is on their kids' learning. Razas have said, even though it is just a basic alphabet and the process is simple and smooth, but I think my kids are learning and a conversation starts to emerge about Arabic language, which is something promising. Na'mat have said, I like how the calendar has a letter written in Arabic, but also the pronunciation in English, because my kids are not familiar with Arabic, even though there are certain pronunciation are not very accurate because of the difference of the language, but I take that opportunity to teach them. So moving forward, I am hoping to build a partnership with Arab American Association or Arabic American Family Support Center to get access to a bigger community and expand the program further. In the future, Lugaty will be expanded to the next level of advanced learning, where there will be a website to be developed. The program will be available for families to subscribe, get the material by downloading or delivering it to them. I am hoping to make an impact within Arab families and hoping children would keep learning and maintaining their mother tongue and will not experience any communication challenges in the future. Shukran. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pragya, and today I want to share with you my fascination with water. I love salt water. I love fresh water. Standing under falling water. Dancing in rainwater. Underwater. But today I want to talk to you about clean water. When we think about good health, we don't necessarily attribute that to always drinking clean water. In our urban cities, in our homes, we're always getting clean water at home, so we're drinking nothing but clean water. I'm from India, and that's not the case for 70% of Indians who live in rural areas and villages where taps of running water are a luxury. What's worse is that 76 million people in India lack access to clean water. They don't have clean water coming into their homes, so they're never drinking clean water. The common rural household solution to this is to boil underground water to kill bacteria, but this does not rid away of pollutants in the water. So some communities like these are now turning towards social enterprises to buy clean water. These enterprises use distribution methods like water ATMs, home delivery methods, and mobile water vending machines, and more. One such organization is Spring Health, who allowed me to study them, use their networks, and innovate a new delivery model for them. In the past 5 years, they've reached 260 villages, but now their growth has stopped. So to understand more about the challenges that Spring Health faces, I traveled to Odisha, a place I'd never been to before. Even though I'm from India, I grew up in sheltered, protected New Delhi, which doesn't look a lot like this. So with funny shoes on and a camera in hand, I stood out immediately. I didn't speak the language, so breaking in was extremely tough. So I just asked him to smile for me. I asked them to smile for me. And just like that, we were all at ease. My aim in Odisha was simple. I wanted to better understand the relationship between people and their source of water. Communities in rural Odisha are shaped around their access to water, which is mainly a well or a tube well. Houses clump themselves around this resource, share the water, and carry it back home. Any elder in the community will be able to spot a good well. It has a few characteristics.
A good well never runs dry, even during the drought season. It's close to home, so you can carry this water back. And it's always available, so you can take as much water as you want whenever you want it. But in every village that I visited, even though there was abundant water, none of this water was fit for drinking. And that's where Spring Health comes in. Their business model is such that they take water from one well, clean the water, and fill it up into 10-liter jerry cans. Then the delivery man loads up his truck with all these cans and drives into the village. And once he's at the customer's doorstep, he transfers this water, clean water, into the customer's can. So the daily experience of a Spring Health customer is very simple. The customer receives water in the morning, at which point he's asked to predict how much water she needs for the entire day. This water is only used for drinking and the entire amount is consumed by dinner time. Thus, the can is empty by nightfall. So from dinner time till next morning, the customer has two options: to either boil more water or to get more water from the chlorinating plant. So why don't these customers just buy more clean water? For two reasons. Firstly, these customers earn less than $2 a day, and thus they have extremely thrifty purchasing habits. And secondly, these customers can taste chlorine in the water, and they believe that this is medicine. So this makes them feel that the water that they're buying is too precious, and that's why they don't want to buy a lot of it. So all of this makes them buy lesser water than they actually need, and thus they end up drinking bad underground water. It wasn't until the second time that I went back to Odisha that I realized that all the cost of this water was just the delivery cost, because groundwater is free and chlorination process is extremely cheap. Further analysis showed me that driving through narrow village roads, added payment procedures, and transferring of water into multiple vessels all add to the overall cost of this delivery. And there is an opportunity for optimization here. By addressing these redundancies within the delivery model, we can reduce the time and cost of this delivery, which will enable us to sell more water at the same price. What was needed was a new source of water for these customers, one that was always available so they could take water whenever they needed it at home, was abundant so they didn't have to worry about this water getting over, and this water had to have no restrictions of use on it. So these customers could use this water not just for drinking, but for all purposes of consumption. Much like a well of clean water. What if the Spring Health delivery model was turned into a well-like service of clean water that would make unlimited water available to customers by increasing the number of access points within the village? To test this, I went back to Odisha third time around to deliver water myself to 30 families for 7 days. The first thing I had to do was increase the number of access points in the village. This made the delivery man's work easier and much faster. Carrying a can of 10 liters of water is extremely hard, so I replaced their existing cans of 10 liters with smaller vessels of 5 liters, 2 liters, and 1 liter bottles. In this model, instead of the multiple blue cans that the delivery man carries, he now carries a single large tank in which he cleans the water. His task is now to every day in the morning fill smaller tanks at 3 access points, and then customers walk to collect water themselves in their new vessels. Houses once again clumped themselves around their nearest access point. A shorter distance between the customer and the source of clean water motivated them to walk to collect water, just as they would do with their regular wells. These smaller sizes made carrying water easy and gave customers the flexibility to take as much water as they needed, even when they needed just a little bit at home. The women who shared this resource live close to one another and trust one another. This made them accountable to one another so no one misused this resource. To measure results, I collected data. The average consumption of clean water increased from 10 liters to 17 liters per day per household, and this was because families were no longer just using this water to drink, but were also cooking with clean water and using it to make tea and coffee at home. This delivery time in this new model was reduced from 4 hours to 1 hour 15 minutes, which ensures that while we use the same delivery assets, Spring Health can now deliver water to 4 times the number of households. And lastly, not one person in these 30 families drank bad underground water and wanted to buy the service again, which in turn means better health. What all of this really means is that by just simply changing the distribution of this water, Spring Health customers were now always drinking clean water. And isn't that what we are working for? This proposed delivery model can be tweaked and adapted to the various different cultures of other social enterprises who are all facing the last mile delivery challenge. This process of using design thinking methodologies to innovate and enhance existing business models can ensure that these rural communities are always drinking clean water. So wrapping it up, this journey that I took of going to a place I'd never been, of learning everything I could about a community, of intervening into their lives for the better, this thesis, this process has left me wealthier with water. And thank you to these lovely people without whom this would not have been possible.
Okay, first of all, congratulations. Let's give yourselves, everyone, a hand. Really extraordinary and an amazing day. Thank you all. Now it's my turn to thank the thesis faculty in reverse order. Tina and Megan, Miya, Archie, Jeff, thank you for being my partners in this. Thank you for making it possible. Thank you for sharing the great days like this and the days when we go home and tear our hair out and sob because it feels like no one's listening to us. And then we find out they actually were. And also to the extraordinary team of Aubrey and Noah and Chessa, who are loving guides and guardrails and sometimes have to pull off a swift intervention. That you are just the most extraordinary team, and again, I couldn't do it without you. We have a tradition here at DSI, and it is that the first year students create a tribute to the students that are graduating. And so there were 5 seconds of this shown, much to our dismay, but we'll look at that now. And then afterwards, I would like to invite the graduating class and the thesis faculty and our team up for a group photo. And then you're all invited back to DSI to celebrate. So thank you.
Wherever we come from, near or far, through the oceans of uncertainty, over the clouds of doubt, our bags are stuffed with great expectations and spilling over from anticipation of how we hope this journey will go. Now, here you are at the end of the road, but before you leave, here are a few things we want you to know.
In order to design a better tomorrow, you need to incorporate all of your yesterdays.
Ever tried, ever failed, no matter. Try again, fail better.
Relax and breathe. Remember, your best ideas are always just around the corner. Probably in the shower or on the toilet.
When you arise in the morning, think of the precious little things to be grateful for. Like simply being alive, to learn, to share, to smile, to cry, to love, and to enjoy.
If you feel overwhelmed, find yourself a corner and take a time out. Then come out swinging.
Tigers don't like honey. Pines and the cypresses don't bloom. Never feel guilty if you don't enjoy what others enjoy and want you to enjoy. Be honest to your nature.
Give, but don't allow yourself to be used. Love, but don't allow your heart to be abused. Trust, but don't be naive. Listen, but don't lose your own voice.
First thing to remember, you are enough. And the second thing to remember, don't forget the first thing.
You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You have within you all that you need for the journey ahead. So, go out and live with boldness, freedom, and persistence, remembering that the very presence of you should make fear afraid.
Enjoy your journey, keep curiosity and enthusiasm like a kid.
Impossible is just an opinion.
When all else fails, take a nap.
Follow your dreams. They know the way.
So please let this be the start toward the fulfillment of your dreams for the future.
Stop judging others only by what you see, because what you see is what you want you to see.
Our doubts are traitors and make us lose the good we often might win by fearing to attempt.
Okay, fine. We are second years now. I will miss you all. You are the spirit of DSI when we came here, and hope you can take this love and passion along your life.
In peace, may you leave the shore. In love, may you find the right. Safe passage on your travels until your final journey to your dream.
Whatever you do, always make time for food.
Thanks for the adventure. Now go have one of your own.
Take pride in how far you have come and have faith in how far you can go.
It's not how smart are you, it's how are you smart.
Just remember that cupcakes are muffins that believe in miracles. Go be that muffin.
We will remember you because you matter all the time.
If you want to achieve greatness, stop asking for permission.
Making the simple complicated is commonplace. Making the complicated simple, awesomely simple, that's creativity.
People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel.
Pictures capture a moment, but living it is worth so much more.
exactly the same question. I was like, how fast was I? The funny part is you drink liquor.
So don't leave yet. We have something for you. When we, the cohort of 2018, started out, you welcomed us with open arms. And so we would like to do the same and send you off with a little token of our love and appreciation. We started a little project called Sustain, and so we want to leave you with a little piece of that, just to show how sweet you guys have been and how much we love you and care for you. And so you are now relieved of your duties. We will take over as the second years. Go out and shine. Thank you.